I walk into the grand ballroom of the Evergreen Resort and instantly regret coming. Crystal chandeliers spill light over polished marble floors, and quiet murmurs of wealth float through the air like an unspoken language. Michael's hand settles at the small of my back, grounding me with the steady warmth of his touch. "Breathe," he murmurs, his surgeon's gaze scanning me with calm precision. "We earned our place here." Leo fidgets beside us, tugging at his bow tie, his patience, already tested by a long day with 6-year-old patients, completely gone. "Mom, this thing is strangling me." I crouch down, fixing the rebellious fabric with a soft smile. "Just a little longer, buddy. Remember our deal. Good behavior now. Swimming pool later." The crowd parts for a moment, and my heart stutters to a stop. A familiar silhouette catches my attention. The slight angle of her head, the way she leans forward when she laughs. It's a movement I haven't seen in 11 years, yet my body recognizes it instantly. The bride turns, lifting her champagne glass for a toast, and our eyes collide across the room. "Grace, my sister." The champagne flute trembles in my hand, the only visible sign of the seismic shock tearing through me. I hadn't recognized the name Daniel Brooks on the invitation. I never connected the dots. I'd assumed Grace still used our family name, Collins. Her sharp intake of breath slices through the hum of conversation. Nearby guests turn as the music continues, while an uneasy silence stretches between us. Behind her, Mother's face pales, then burns red. Father steps forward instinctively, placing himself between Grace and me, just as he always has. "What are you doing here?" Mother snaps, loud enough to draw curious glances. Shame rises in my throat for a fleeting second. I'm 21 again, standing in the rain, suitcase in hand, abandoned and alone. Michael steps up beside me, his tone calm but unyielding. "My wife is a guest. She's the CEO of Medova. We were personally invited by the groom." The name Medova ripples through the surrounding cluster of medical professionals. Whispers spread. Eyes widen. A woman in a burgundy dress leans toward her companion. "That's Amber Collins." Rain soaks through my memory as Father's voice echoes in my mind. "If you're too selfish to help at the clinic, don't come back." The front door slams, final and absolute. Now I stand tall, wrapped in Valentino. The rain belongs to the past. The frightened girl is gone. In her place stands a woman who built herself from nothing, who refused to vanish. Dr. Daniel Brooks approaches, confusion etched across his face as his eyes move between Grace's rigid posture and my composed calm. "You know the CEO of Medova?" He directs the question at my parents first, then turns toward me, curiosity sharpening his expression. "We've been trying to partner with them for months. Your patient monitoring system is transforming post-surgical care." Grace tries to smile, but it trembles, fraying at the edges. Mother and father exchange a look thick with panic. Around us, the murmurs of the wedding guests swell, growing bolder, more relentless. I could cause a scene. I could unravel 11 years of carefully crafted lies. I could tell Daniel how they'd told everyone I flunked out of college, how they'd branded me reckless while quietly redirecting my tuition money to Grace. The power is finally in my hands. Instead, I simply say, "Hello, Grace. Congratulations." The words hit like a thunderclap. Grace jerks as if I'd yelled. Michael's hand settles against my back again, the silent question clear. "Stay or leave?" Leo tilts his head up at me, blissfully unaware of the currents pulling tight around us. "Mom, is that lady in the white dress your friend?" Daniel's gaze sharpens. He looks between Grace and me, his bride, and the stranger, who clearly isn't a stranger at all. "Grace." Confusion laces his voice, followed by the first hint of suspicion. "I thought you." "You said your sister was." His sentence fades, unfinished, heavy in the air. Grace's eyes flick wildly between her new husband and our parents. For the first time in my life, I watch her struggle to find words. Have you ever entered a room and instantly wished you hadn't? The sensible thing would be to gather my family and slip away quietly. Let Grace keep her flawless day. Let the past stay buried. But sometimes regret is just fear in disguise, and I stopped being afraid a long time ago. And this is my wife, Grace, Daniel announces brightly, his arms sliding around her waist. A Stanford graduate and the brilliant mind overseeing her family's medical practice back in Vermont. I stand 10 feet away, champagne untouched, watching my sister nod demurely as she's presented to a group of doctors. Her pearl earrings catch the light as she tilts her head, a gesture I've known since childhood, the tell Grace uses when she's about to stretch the truth. The Collins Clinic has served our community for 30 years, she says, her voice balanced carefully between pride and modesty. We focus on family medicine, with some geriatric care. Michael brushes my elbow, subtly pulling my attention to a conversation happening nearby. A silver-haired woman in an elegant pantsuit studies my name badge. Medova. Her eyes widen. You're Amber Collins. Your presentation at last month's medical summit was exceptional. The patient monitoring system you developed is reshaping post-surgical recovery protocols across 3 states. Actually, I reply with a small smile. We just finalized implementation with Northwestern's hospital network. Across the room, Grace stumbles through an explanation about platelet therapy trends. The physician questioning her trades a brief look with his colleague. I thought Stanford's medical program moved away from that approach 3 years ago, he says, a crease forming between his brows. Grace laughs, a note too high to sound natural. Well, you know how academic debates go. Some professors hold on to traditional methods longer than others. Daniel's expression shifts almost too subtly to catch, a tightening around his eyes, his arm easing slightly from her waist. He notices the inconsistency. Amber. The voice behind me belongs to my father. 11 years older, but unmistakable, the same commanding tone that once sent me rushing to answer phones at the clinic while Grace practiced piano. He steps closer, placing himself between me and the room. You need to leave, he says. You're ruining Grace's day. Michael stiffens beside me, but I rest a calming hand on his arm. I was invited by Daniel. I reply evenly. Perhaps you should explain why that's a problem. Father's face hardens. The expensive suit can't hide the man beneath it, a small-town doctor whose authority ends at the borders of his own practice. Don't play innocent. Showing up like this, flaunting whatever company you claim to run. Medova is hardly a claim. Dennis Michael steps forward, every inch the Harvard-trained surgeon. The medical technology conference in Boston last month featured your daughter as the keynote speaker. Her monitoring systems are now in use at 27 hospitals nationwide. A nearby guest turns at the mention of the company name, recognition flashing across their face. Across the ballroom, my mother hovers near Grace, frantically attempting to redirect Daniel's colleagues away from me, her hands fluttering like startled birds. It's useless. The connections are already spreading. Medical professionals recognizing my name, drawing links, putting pieces together. Leo tugs on my hand. Mom, can I have cake now? You promised. In a minute, sweetheart. His gaze drifts past me, landing on Grace. Is that lady your sister? Did she go to Stanford like you did? Dennis's face drains of color. Before he can answer, Leo continues, completely unaware. You showed me your college pictures. The red buildings were really pretty. Grace has edged closer, Daniel at her side. Her expression freezes at Leo's words. Stanford? Daniel asks, looking between us. Yes, I reply calmly. Class of 2014. A distinguished cardiologist who had been speaking with Daniel turns toward him. You didn't mention your wife's sister was Amber Collins. Her work on predictive algorithms for post-surgical complications is groundbreaking. Northwestern Medical reduced readmission rates by 22% using her systems. The weight of 11 years of lies visibly settles onto Grace's shoulders. She reaches for Daniel's arm, but he shifts slightly away, his focus now drawn to the professional conversation forming around me. Rain pounds against my dorm window as I stare at the bank statement, the numbers refusing to make sense. My college fund, empty, transferred to an unfamiliar account. That same day, a package arrives from Grace. Photos of her spring break in Cancun, a trip I couldn't understand how our family could afford. I forced the memory aside, anchoring myself in the present. Daniel has pulled Grace away, their heated whispers visible even from across the ballroom. Confusion crosses his face, then disbelief, followed by something harder, as she clutches his sleeve. "You told me you graduated from Stanford," he says, his voice rising just enough to carry. "I went there. I've never heard your name mentioned by any faculty." Grace responds in a rush. "It was mostly remote learning, a special program they offered." "Stanford Medicine doesn't offer remote degrees." Daniel cuts in, his voice turning cold. "Never has." Color drains from Grace's face as she realizes her carefully built life is beginning to unravel. Her eyes search the room and land on mine, desperate. Daniel steps back, adjusts his tie, then turns away from her. With measured steps, he crosses the ballroom, straight toward me. Behind him, Grace watches like a drowning woman as her last lifeline walks away. Daniel gently guides me aside, his hand resting at my elbow. His fingers tremble faintly, the only sign that the composed doctor is shaken. "Let's find somewhere quieter," he says, his voice steady, though his eyes flick back to where Grace stands with my parents, their heads bent together in urgent whispers. We settle into a small alcove at the edge of the ballroom, 2 plush chairs, a low table between us. Soft lighting casts shadows across his face, accentuating the sharp lines of confusion etched there. "I'm sorry for the awkwardness," he begins, straightening his bow tie. His words fade, unable to bridge the gap of unanswered questions. "You didn't know Grace had a sister." I finish for him, keeping my tone neutral. His eyes widen. "She mentioned a sister once. Said you dropped out after a semester, that you couldn't handle the pressure and disappeared." The old wound pulses, but I don't react. Years in boardrooms have taught me how to stay composed, even while bleeding internally. "I graduated summa cum laude," I say simply, "while working 3 jobs. 3 jobs. His brow creases. Mornings at a coffee shop. Evenings at a hospital reception desk. Weekends at a call center. The memories rush back, bone-deep exhaustion, falling asleep over textbooks, the constant grind forward. I put myself through school part-time. No family support. Daniel leans in. "And Medova? Grace said you worked some kind of office job." I can't stop the small smile that forms. "We started in our apartment 7 years ago. Last quarter's revenue was just under 400 million. Across the room, my parents flank Grace like sentries. Dennis paces in tight circles, his face flushed with anger, while Margaret grips Grace's arm, knuckles white with strain. They glance toward us repeatedly, whispering with urgency. "They're going to try to pull us apart soon," I say calmly. Daniel follows my gaze. Moments later, Michael joins us, his phone held casually at his side. I recognize the tactic, documenting behavior while appearing relaxed. A safeguard we learned after years of navigating hostile business environments. "Everything okay here?" he asks, his surgeon's eyes giving me a quick, silent check. "Just catching up," I reply, warmth spreading through my chest. The man beside me, steady, brilliant, sees me as I am, not as my family's convenient rewrite of my life. Right on cue, Margaret hustles toward us, her voice already lifted into a brittle brightness.